What if I told you that Florida's on the verge of doing something no major state has ever done before? Eliminating property taxes entirely. Not reducing them, not capping them, erasing them, forever. No annual bill, no tax lien on your home. No government quietly charging you rent for a house you already own. Sounds like freedom, right? But here's the part no one is saying out loud. This isn't a tax cut. It's a tax swap, and one that could completely reshape who wins, who loses, and how wealth moves in Florida for decades to come. Higher sales taxes, a brand new exit tax when you sell your home, and a loophole buried so deep that most people won't see it until it hits their wallet. This proposal could make homeowners dramatically richer, or quietly trap families, retirees, and renters in ways they never expected. So the real question isn't, do you hate property taxes? The real question is, what are you willing to pay for freedom, and when will the bill come due? Stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's at stake and why this decision could change Florida forever. To understand what's really happening in Florida right now, you need to know one thing. This isn't a single reform proposal. It's a fight between two completely different visions of the future. On one side, you have what I'll call the SAFE bill. This is the plan backed by the political establishment. It sounds good on the surface, it polls well, and it feels responsible. Under this plan, Florida would reduce property taxes for homeowners, but only partially. Your homestead gets some relief, but the system itself stays intact. You still pay school taxes. You still pay property taxes on rental homes. Businesses still pay. And most importantly, the government still maintains a tax lien on your house. Nothing fundamentally changes. The machine keeps running, just slightly quieter. That's Plan A. On the other side is something very different, something far more radical. Plan B doesn't try to fix property taxes. It tries to end them completely. No city tax, no county tax, no school tax, no property tax on homes, rentals, or businesses. Local governments would lose the authority to tax property at all. This is why people are calling it the nuclear option. It doesn't tweak the system. It blows it up and replaces it with something else. And that something else is the real debate. Because if property taxes disappear, the money has to come from somewhere. Police still need funding, schools still need funding, infrastructure doesn't maintain itself. So Plan B proposes a trade, higher sales taxes, and a one-time exit tax when property's sold. This is where opinions split hard. Some people see this as true ownership for the first time, a state where your home is actually yours. Others see it as shifting the burden in ways that could quietly hurt renters, retirees, and anyone who needs flexibility. So don't think of this as a left versus right argument. It's not even really a tax argument. It's a philosophical one. Do you fund the government based on what people own, or based on what they spend, and when they leave? Because Florida isn't choosing between high taxes and low taxes. It's choosing between two entirely different economic models. And next, we need to look at what the nuclear option actually costs and who it truly benefits. Let's strip away the politics and explain the nuclear option in the simplest possible terms. Because this proposal only sounds simple until you see how it actually works. Under this plan, property taxes disappear completely. No annual bill tied to your home's value. No reassessments when your neighborhood gets more expensive. No situation where your income stays the same, but your tax bill keeps rising. If you own a home, this feels like true ownership for the first time. But nothing in government is free, so the system doesn't remove the tax burden. It moves it. The first shift is obvious. Sales taxes go up. Instead of taxing wealth stored in property, the state taxes consumption. Every time you spend money on goods, services, or dining out, you pay more. This changes who carries the load. If you spend a lot, you pay more. If you're frugal, you keep more. If your wealth is tied up in property rather than spending, you benefit. The second shift is quieter and far more controversial. When you sell real estate, the state takes a cut at closing. a one-time charge based on the sale price. Supporters argue this is fair. You're not punished for living in your home, only when you convert it into cash. But economically, this creates a powerful incentive. Holding property becomes cheap, selling becomes expensive, and that changes behavior. People stay put longer. They delay moves. They think twice before downsizing or relocating. So the nuclear option isn't just about taxes. It's about mobility. It's a system designed to reward stability and long-term ownership while discouraging frequent moves. That's not inherently good or bad, but it's a massive structural change. What matters is this. The same policy produces very different outcomes depending on who you are. And once you see the numbers, real households, real scenarios, the winners and losers become very clear. That's what we're going to break down next. Now let's stop guessing and run the numbers. Because this proposal sounds ideological, but the winners and losers are decided by math. Scenario 1, the typical homeowner. Take a Florida family earning around $90,000 a year. After federal taxes and benefits, they bring home roughly $72,000. Out of that, about $27,000 goes toward taxable spending, things like clothes, cars, electronics, and eating out. Under today's 6% sales tax, they pay about $1,620 a year. Under the proposed 9% sales tax, that jumps to roughly $2,130. That's an increase of about $810 per year. Now look at the other side. The median Florida home, around $425,000, often comes with a property tax bill of roughly $5,500 per year. Under the nuclear option, that bill goes to zero. So this family pays $800 more at the register to save $5,500 on their property tax bill. That's a net gain of about $4,700 every single year. For homeowners who plan to stay put, that's not a marginal win. That's a structural wealth transfer. Scenario 2, the renter. Now take a renter earning $45,000 a year. Their taxable spending might be around $18,000 annually. The higher sales tax costs them about $540 more per year, immediately. And what do they get in return? Nothing, at least not right away. Yes, landlords stop paying property taxes. Yes, in theory, rents should eventually fall. But leases don't reset overnight. Markets take 12, 24, sometimes 36 months to adjust. So renters pay higher taxes on day one while waiting years for a benefit that may or may not fully arrive. Short-term losers, long-term uncertain. Scenario 3, the retiree couple. Now consider retirees on a fixed income of $60,000. They own a paid-off home worth about $350,000. They spend more of their income, say $40,000, on taxable goods. The higher sales tax costs them about $200 a year, but they save roughly $4,500 a year in property taxes. On paper, they win by $3,300 annually, but that win only holds if they never sell, which brings us to the most dangerous part of this proposal. To replace lost revenue, the nuclear option introduces something Florida has never had before: a 5% exit tax on the sale of real property. Sell your home and the state takes its cut at closing. Let's put real numbers on that. Sell a home for $500,000 and you owe the state $25,000. Sell a $350,000 home and the fee is $1,750. Now go back to that retiree couple. They're saving about $3,300 per year under this plan. Sounds great until life intervenes. What if 3 years later they face a health issue? What if they need to downsize or move into assisted living? They sell their $350,000 home and immediately owe $1,750. That single fee wipes out 5 full years of tax savings. If they sell before year 5, they actually lose money. This is where incentives shift. Once property taxes are gone, holding onto a home becomes incredibly cheap, but selling becomes painfully expensive. That creates what economists call a lock-in effect. People stop moving, inventory tightens, listings disappear, and timing matters. If the exit tax takes effect on a specific date, the behavior is predictable. A massive rush to sell before the deadline, followed by a sharp drop in listings afterward. Late 2026 could see the biggest fire sale Florida has ever experienced. Early 2027, a frozen market. This isn't speculation. It's basic incentive design. When staying costs nothing and leaving costs 5% of your life's largest asset, people stay. So the exit tax isn't just a revenue tool. It's a force that reshapes mobility, housing supply, and long-term affordability. And it raises the question no one wants to answer. Is a system that punishes movement really a system built on freedom? Up to this point, the debate sounds like a clean trade. Property taxes go away, sales taxes, and an exit tax take their place. But here's the problem. Eliminating a tax does not automatically eliminate government revenue needs. And this is where a quiet loophole enters the picture, one that could completely change how this reform plays out in real life. The proposal removes the government's ability to levy property taxes based on value. Those are called ad valorem taxes. But it does not clearly prohibit flat fees, charges that are the same for every household, regardless of home value. These already exist today. Fire protection fees, garbage collection fees, stormwater fees, lighting and infrastructure assessments. Right now, they're relatively small compared to property taxes. But once property taxes disappear, local governments will be under pressure. Police still need funding, emergency services still need funding. Cities don't just shut down because a tax goes away. So imagine this scenario. Property taxes are abolished. The city budget suddenly has a massive hole. Instead of raising a tax, which they're no longer allowed to do, the city council passes a new ordinance. It creates a public safety fee. Not a tax, a fee. Every household pays it. Flat amount, no exemptions, $1,000, $1,500. Maybe more. And because it's not based on property value, it may be perfectly legal under the new rules. This is what economists call balloon squeezing. You squeeze one side of the system, and the pressure expands somewhere else. So now imagine the full picture. Higher sales taxes at the register, an exit tax when you sell, and a new set of local fees showing up every year. At that point, did property taxes really disappear, or did they just change names? This is why the details matter more than the headline. Without strict limits on fees, this reform risks becoming an illusion of freedom, one that feels great at first and slowly erodes over time. And that brings us to the final question. With the clock ticking, who actually decides how this ends? And how much power do voters really have? So here's where we land. Florida isn't just debating a tax policy. It's deciding how ownership works in the future. This proposal could free homeowners from annual property taxes, something people have complained about for decades. But it also introduces new pressures, higher consumption taxes, a costly exit when you sell, and a real risk that fees quietly replace the tax that was abolished. There is no perfect option here, only trade-offs. If you're a long-term homeowner who plans to stay put, this could be a massive financial win. If you rent, plan to move, or value flexibility, the story looks very different. And that's why understanding the details matters more than cheering for the headline. So I want to hear from you. Would you trade property taxes for higher sales taxes and an exit fee? Do you see this as real freedom or just a different kind of bill? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all and they shape future videos. Quick disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. It's not tax, legal, or investment advice. Always do your own research before making decisions. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe to the channel. We follow the money, the incentives, and the policies that actually affect your life, so you can stay one step ahead. I'll be watching these bills closely. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.